Hello, and welcome to the eternally artistic podcast, the Cutie Art Crusaders.
Infernally.
This week, it is episode 178 for December 22nd, 2015. We've got 3 pones here today to entertain you, the first of which is me. My name is Rainbow Plasma. I am the organizer and host of the podcast, and today I'm joined by...
Burn to One, and I am the eternally burning flame of this podcast. And I'm also the special guest coordinator, and this week I'll be editing.
I'm Flutterguy317, and I'm not even
it.
going to try. Nope. I am the media manager of the podcast.
Sorry, Ted, I hate to break it to you, but that was actually... You're reading that wrong when you sign the contract. You're actually the media manger. So you have to dress up like baby Jesus every once in a while and go sit down for the entertainment of social media.
No, but see, the manger is like the building, so I have to basically turn into the building, right?
So what you're saying is we're
You've
going to
always been
shove
kind of
Ted...
building-like.
We're going to shove Ted full of
Thank you.
Christmas spirits, a bunch of random kings and incense? Is that what we're going to...
Speaking of Christmas spirits,
Hey.
it's Christmas soon.
Yeah. Or as it says in the doc, Christmas.
Yes, well, that's how we pronounce it in Canada. I've just learned to say Christmas because I talk to Americans a lot. So
do you like decorate a moose instead of a tree?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like we hang decorations off the. That's how we pronounce decorations in Canada. We hang them off the antlers of the moose, the Chris moose, and yeah.
Yeah. That'd be such a sick tradition. Like everyone puts a moose head up in their house.
No.
Metal as hell.
It's got to be like live moose. Like that's even more
Right. Like
awesome.
you invite it. You go out into the wilderness and you do the
chain
calls.
something to your living room.
And no.
even more metal.
It's a symbiotic relationship, Burned. Okay.
Okay.
Well,
We
symbiotic.
feed the moose, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in turn, he dances for our amusement. So yeah,
Canadian
Christmas,
dancing moose.
Christmas, we feed it poutine. Christmas is this week.
Wow.
Which means that we should talk a little bit about Christmas next episode, which we have no idea how we're actually going to record, because next Friday when we usually record is actually Christmas Day. So we don't actually know what the heck we're doing then. I think we're going to do it on the 26th.
Maybe
You just stall it a day.
we'll try it. Yeah.
So we'll figure it out, and hopefully we'll be able to do that. We're all going to bring our recording equipment. I mean, I guess, Burned, you live at home, and Ted, you're going home.
Hey,
So.
Lamel.
Yeah.
So we're going to bring our recording equipment and try and do it then and see what happens.
Yeah.
And maybe there'll be an episode. Maybe there won't. Hey!
You want to know what makes this technically easier for me, but a little bit more sad for me this Christmas?
The fact that you live at home?
Well, I mean, yes, there's that. Thank you. Just punch him right in the gut while he's down. Just give him a little kick. Merry Christmas. No, but my parents are actually not here for Christmas.
Aw.
So in the past, I've been the one not here for Christmas. You guys remember there was one episode I actually recorded in Arizona because I went there with my friend of mine, and then another Christmas somehow I skipped out for some reason because I think my family went somewhere on vacation. But this Christmas, my
That's
parents...
how they say Christmas in Alaska.
My parents are in Germany, and they're Germany visiting family, friends, and stuff, and having Christmas there. So I have the entirety of this giant house to myself. But Shotzi's keeping me company. All right, boy.
Yay. So what you're saying is that we should come and crash your place.
I'm having a Merry Christmas with my dog and then my dad's fish. And so I am playing the house caretaker for an entire month. But my sister is in town, so we're going to have a... Not in town, she lives here. She's lived here for 4 years. But my sister lives in the same town as me, so I'm going to have Christmas with her.
That's nice.
Yay.
So there's that.
That's nice.
If you feel lonely for the holidays, we can always do a hangouts.
I need a Christmas Google Hangout search.
So speaking of things that are happy, let's talk about Comcast.
Oh yeah, that's stories, right? These are stories I've been dying to tell for a while now. And they're pretty simple stories. I mean, they're not that complex, but basically it consists of that. Recently we got a new internet connection, and we got a new home security system installed. That Comcast Xfinity home security stuff with the security cameras and all that fancy junk. There's a security camera pointed at my bathroom. That's awkward. But basically a lot of Comcast texts and stuff have been going in and out of our house, and unfortunately set up, well, fortunate for my internet connection, but unfortunate for people walking into my home. Our home's modem is in my room, like my personal room where I'm recording this and sitting here now. And I mean, I'm a pretty big brony. My room's pretty decked out with a lot of colored horses. So basically, it's like this game of what is the Comcast tech guy's reaction going to be when he walks into this 24-year-old's dude's like room covered in ponies. And recently, like, as I know they're going to walk in and have some kind of reaction. So like when I'm showing like, oh yeah, modem's down here, I come to my room and I like sit down and I just like wait for him to come in and just to see his reaction. And they always kind of walk in. They're like, oh, and they start like looking around and they do a little few double takes. They go around the room, then like turn around and see more ponies behind them. And they're like, oh, so is there a router in here? And it's like, yeah, it's right over here. So it's like,
that's when you like swivel around and you're like, welcome to my lair.
Yeah, welcome to my horse lair.
You'll never escape.
I always get mixed reactions. Sometimes they just like, they completely like deadpan, pretend like there's nothing around the room. Like, oh yeah, this is normal. Like, I'm not gonna reference this at all. And then sometimes while I'm chilling there, our last Comcast guy, Derek, he was super cool. And he was just like, so like, must really like My Little Pony, huh? And it's like, oh yeah, how could you tell?
See, like, so the funny thing to me is, right, like anybody who knows Bernd in person knows that he's not a very stereotypical brony, you know, like, Bernd's a very outgoing guy, has a lot of friends, spends a lot of time outdoors, that kind of thing, you know, like it's not, he doesn't fit the stereotype. He's you know, you're a pretty fit guy, so
More on that in a moment.
So like, you know, people who know him, he's not very stereotypical. However, when you describe the situation, it is a 24-year-old guy in his parents' basement covered in My Little Pony stuff. It's like, oh, well, I can see how people would walk in and not knowing you go like,
It's good stuff. But it's like mixed reactions too, because I got like ponies, but then I got some guitars and some like recording equipment and alcohol everywhere. So.
Well, and you have to hide. You have to hide your bales of hay as well because you're a horse.
Oh yeah, that's right. My stable's actually out back. We don't have to worry about that.
Oh, okay, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, we're good. It's on the other side of the lake.
Was that the thing you locked me in when I visited you like 3 years ago?
Yeah, that the goose cage. We've upgraded to a horse stable.
Oh, I see.
So, do you guys like? Can you get Wi-Fi out there now?
Oh, of course.
Nice.
Of course.
In-barn Wi-Fi, yeah.
Yeah.
Of
course.
Of Horsehead.
Of course.
Wow. So, Bernd, I think that the next time you have something like this happen, you need to take it one step further. You need to get one of those horse head masks.
Just sit in my chair as they enter, swivel around. Welcome.
Yes. Exactly.
Too good.
Yeah.
That was it.
So, speaking of computers, I just wanted to mention really quickly. First of all, I'm going to mention, because I can hear it in the background, occasionally you might hear some banging noises on my microphone if Bernd doesn't cut them out, which would be crazy because it'll be happening all the time. There's construction going on in my house, so you might hear a couple of very faint thumps. That's not you. You're not going crazy. Yeah. There's hammering going on in my house, and there's nothing I can do about it.
That's funny. Did we even talk about why I couldn't record like 2 weeks ago? Because they were sawing a window out of the side of my house? Out of the side of my room?
Oh, yeah. Well, if we didn't, then we just did.
So, there you go.
I feel like we covered it in that episode.
They sawed the window out. No one heard this.
This is the podcast of interruptions. This is amazing.
Gino, I'm recording. Keep it back.
Keep it all in. Keep it all in. Yes. Great.
All right,
great. And the thumping too in the background. Keep that in. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I don't know why people have suddenly decided that winter is a great time to do construction, but at least in my case, it's indoor construction, not outdoor construction.
Yeah.
So
speaking of computers,
I mean, for God's sake, I'm so tired of like.
What, transitioning?
Can you hear that? Is it just me? Okay, cool. Sorry.
I heard the audible thump on your mic.
I installed Windows again on my computer because it was going really slow, and now it's not really slow, and I'm pretty happy about it, and everything's fast. Zoom, zippity, bip, bop, 30-second restart. All right.
Yay.
You want to talk about snowboarding?
What's up, Whippity Bop?
I just lost Bernd.
That's sweet. Oh God, yeah. I want to install Windows 10 too. So cheers to that. I gotta do that.
I did not get Windows 10. I have Windows 7 still.
Oh, you went back to Windows 7. Well, I want to install Windows 10, and I've got this sweet solid state that I found back here. Which, funny enough, going back to Comcast guys, they knocked behind my desk, which is why I couldn't find it.
Oh, okay. Wow. I have a solid state drive too, which is why things are going fast. So,
anywho, Zers. I put snowboarding in there because yesterday I went snowboarding for the first time, and it was super cool and painful, and I wanted to talk about it.
Yay.
Yeah. So I'm really, really sore. And I'm sore because of that. Because apparently falling repeatedly in snow, going really fast, makes you hurt. And my neck hurts, and my knee hair's bruised. It's purple, and it hurt.
Sorry,
But it's
did you
fun.
say your knee hair is bruised?
No, my knee is purple.
Oh, okay. I thought you said your knee hair is bruised.
No, my knee hair got really crumpled up and twisted because of the wool socks. But that's fine. That's normal.
Did you wear knee-high socks to go snowboarding?
I did.
Really? Wow.
Well, like, I bought socks to go snowboarding that were wool,
Yeah.
that were, like, higher than my boot, because I didn't have any socks that were higher than my snowboard boots, right?
Yeah.
And they just happened to be, like, knee-high socks. And I was like, oh, this is my life now. But they were warm.
Nice.
So,
That is your life now.
Congrats.
yeah. But it was cool. Like, I did better than I thought I would for, like, the first time. I still
Yay.
can't go very fast, and I still can only go so far without falling. But I can do the sideways, like stop without falling, but I can't do the backwards stop thing. It's called what? Toe side versus heel side? I can do toe side, but I can't do heel side.
Have you ever gone skiing? Or is this like your first time?
Yeah,
going?
no, I'm a confident skier.
Okay.
I've always been good at skiing ever since I was little. I don't own skis anymore that fit me. That kind of gives you a timeline of how long it's been since I've skied.
Yeah.
My skis that I do own are too small for me, and they're also like old tech that's awful and only works on groomed hills. But yeah, I'm a confident skier, and so I was good at that. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna try snowboarding, and I bought a snowboard 4 years ago and never got to try it.
Wow.
Actually, I bought a snowboard before I was a brony, so that's more than 4 years ago. That's like 6 years ago.
So what
5
you're
years
saying
ago.
is that your snowboard does not have Rainbow Dash on it.
No, it would.
What a
It would,
loser.
mind you. Yeah, I bought a snowboard before I was a brony, like when I kind of like the first year I moved here, and miraculously it's the right size for me. And it's an all-terrain snowboard, and so after all of that time, I finally took it to the mountain and got to try it out at the ripe age of 24. Yeah, sweet. That's it. That's what I'm
Yay.
talking about.
If there was a word that I would use to describe you, Burned, it would be ripe. Let's
Right
move on to
then.
the art.
Yeah. Okay, so the first piece is the one that I'm bringing, which is called Marshland Wayfarer by Shamanguli. And this is a piece...
Shamanguli.
Yeah, it's a great name, by the way.
I remember that name.
This is a piece of Twilight standing in a marsh and looking oh so pretty, I guess. I don't know.
A lot of tail hair.
Yeah.
And pretty and white, and I pity the girl.
What are you two
pretty.
on
That's
about?
What musical is that from? I can't remember.
Burned the
remember
Horse
either.
musical. Coming to theaters 2016.
Nice.
Man.
So yeah, I don't know. I just like this piece a lot. It's very pretty. I enjoy the colors, even though it's kind of very desaturated. It has like little spots of like saturated colors, and
Very.
it has a lot of atmospheric perspective.
Yeah.
Twilight's very cute in it.
It's very yellow. I feel like that's the dominant color in this. Do you guys agree?
It's well, what I was gonna say is there's also senses of purple, like, but both of them are very subtle. Like I feel like there is complements in the mist, but they're not. It's weird. They're complementary colors, but they're not used as complements to stand out against each other.
man.
It's just kind of they're both kind of there, misty,
Yeah.
foggy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I tried to maximize this, but it's not 19 by 20. Shamaguli, please.
So close, please.
If you look at like the trees and stuff, like there is some purples in them. So
Yeah.
that is kind of like complementary and standoutish.
Well, it's like the physical fog itself is yellow, and then like physical things as they go back further, they get more purple. It's a really interesting sense
So
of
there's something-
contrast.
Interesting is a good word, because there's something interesting going on here, because there's that kind of peachy purple in the top right. But if you look in the top left, it's actually green. It's like a really light green. And so that green kind of blends all the way into the background until it like touches more purple. But then you have that yellow kind of like light with that's translucent or transparent, like over the top of everything. So it's like kind of like analogous yellow in their hue, but it's technically still some green and yellow in there. And then there's that kind of like peachy, like orange purple, like going on.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of interesting colors that are kind of like mixed in there, but yeah, they're really, really transparent. Really, what's the word you said? Desaturated. Yeah.
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 So I'm reminded of something that I did yesterday. So yesterday I went out and I did some Christmas shopping, and then I walked back to a friend's house. Wow, I couldn't have made that sound any worse than I did there. But uh, anyways, we walked through a park on the way there. And normally this is the kind of park, it's in downtown Ottawa, and it's really beautiful. It looks over a river, and there's the Parliament buildings up on a hill, and the trees are in bloom, and it's a nice grassy area. You know, in the summer, it's a beautiful place. People are there all the time. Yesterday was a horrible day. Like, it was rainy and like blah, and all of the trees had their leaves fall off. But the thing that I found incredible was that there was a sort of a different beauty to it, you know? Like, it wasn't quite the same as when it was in summer, but there was still something very breathtaking about it, and it still managed to look really beautiful. And that's the sense I get from this piece as well. You know, it's not a full forest full of life and energy, but there's still something quite striking about it and beautiful about it. And I really enjoy that. It's a different type of feeling that you'll get from like a summary piece, but it's still very nice.
Yeah.
Actually, like, this kind of reminds me, or that what you just said kind of reminds me. By my parents' house, there's like a marshland kind of area, and I always enjoy going past it and like looking out at it, even though it's like very like kind of bleak. There's like a prettiness to it because of like, you know, how I guess bleak is not the right word to use, but it's just like, you know, the colors and the mist and everything. Like, it's very pretty. Yeah. I really like the layering in this piece. I love when pieces do this like really close up foreground that's like just all silhouettes of stuff. It's like these branches that are up close, like right to us.
Yeah, there's definitely some interesting. I enjoyed the differences in weight and width with the branches. They're very kind of. They change. It's not like one brush is done with the branches, you know. There's lots of different sizes for each of the branches, and it varies as you go along. The ones that's sticking out right above Twilight, you can see in the strokes, it's kind of like gets wider and thinner as the stroke goes on, and so that's kind of gives us the sense of like wavy crookedness that branches naturally have, as opposed to, you know, looking at something which is just like a very clean swipe, which wouldn't give off the sense of like that rugged bark that trees have.
Something interesting, maybe even a small critique. I really like the atmospheric perspective in the background, because like it does really push everything kind of far away, or I guess it does more to make it seem misty or like kind of hazy in this swamp, you know, kind of like that early morning mist you're talking about. But and so like that's all done really well. But then when we're looking at those branches you pointed out in the foreground on the right, how they're dark and it makes them look very up close. I get a small critique would be that they're the same value and like darkness, maybe even a little bit lighter, a little bit more brown than the tree on the left-hand side that is kind of like above Twilight, which like composition-wise is placed really nice because it kind of reflects the stick on the bottom right corner, right? But because it's reflecting it, it's at a similar angle and it's placed in like a similar like corner, it makes them look like they want to be on the same plane. So they're kind of fighting for that existence in space, if that makes sense. Because it looks like they're on a similar plane, where it looks like the stick on the right is supposed to be right up in our face, and then the trees are kind of like halfway to Twilight, right?
I can see what you mean, yeah.
A critique, something to try, might be like reducing the value or something, or like just a little bit on that tree on the left, or making it like a different value, or not even value, a different hue of brown, and then that stick on the right, have it be very close to black. You don't have to go all the way to black, because in digital art it will make it like a hole, like you cut a black hole out of it. It's good the color it is, but don't have it be like the same as that tree on the left, right? Because they'll fight each other, or looks too similar, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, other than that, I really do enjoy the other senses of depth. You know, I do get a sense that there's kind of like a line. You can see the ground is quite colorful on the trees with the orange leaves, and then there's kind of a cutoff point, and the stuff behind that really starts fading quickly, and so it does give a sense of kind of like a midground and a background, and so and those two branches despite being a bit conflicting, as you just mentioned, do separate the foreground very nicely from the midground. And so from the sense of overall piece depth, I think there's a lot of really good things that are done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, definitely.
My favorite part's the orange.
The orange
and
is
the
nice.
yellow, like the really like bright orange, like leafy bits, and then the bright yellow leafy bits, and the little, I don't know what those are, like weird daytime firefly glowy things. Like all those, the three of those are sweet.
My favorite part's the horse.
Twilight, purple
Wow.
and yellow. There's also a bit of blue that's really interesting, like kind of turquoisey green stuff.
Yeah, in the water.
You know,
Mhm.
well, like not just the water, but like on the ground used to shade things.
Oh, yeah.
So like on the little island in the middle, you notice there's some bright little bitserinos of cyan, and then in the middle bottom, like right at the very bottom of the picture plane, there's the turquoise there, and then it's a little bit more underneath the little hump of dirt.
Yeah.
It's
Cool.
good stuff. Good mixture up of Reno of colors.
All right, now
You'd
you're just
love
forcing
Reno.
it. Now you're just forcing it.
Yeah, I couldn't think of any other random ending.
I do like the framing in this piece, like the branches on the right and the far away trees on the I'm sorry, the branches on the left and the far away trees on the right just kind of like kind of come together and like
Yeah.
bend over each other to kind of put your focus right at twilight. It's
Yeah,
really
and
cool.
the branches with the orange leaves, like the two trees, like if you go to the right of Twilight, there's kind of like three little trees, but those two trees that both do an S, they kind of like bend around Twilight, like that's kind of framing as well, and they both kind of mirror each other, and they both bend in a similar direction, and I really like that touch, because in this piece in particular, there's like a sun or light source coming through the trees or coming through a hole on the left-hand side where the sun rays are coming from, and trees, especially willows, will grow like that, and they will bend towards the source of light or the greatest source of light. So like when you come to like a clearing or something, they'll bend around the clearing. So like that's actually kind of like realistic to nature, and like both those trees trying to reach towards where the light source in this piece is coming from. Obviously it's sculpted, but intentionally or not, it's a very nice touch.
Well, I'm not sure. Like, I think a lot of trees do that, right? Like,
Yeah, a lot
not
of
just
plants
willows,
do.
but and
Well, like-
sometimes it's not even the case that they necessarily reach for it, but sometimes it's just like the ones that happen to grow are the ones that happen to get sunlight,
Yeah.
right? It's the whole like natural
not
selection
all
thing.
of it, because when you're looking at like yeah, it's true, but when you're looking at things like pine trees or cedar trees or oak trees, like their goal to get to the light, to the sun, is to grow straight up and fast. And so
Very true. Very true.
what ends up happening is the faster growing, more weed-like trees like willows or alders, they'll grow extremely quickly, and they do that like weird bendy trunk maneuver to get to the sun, and they'll cover up high-growing straight trees like pine and birch too, where they just want to go straight up. And so since they can't get to the light, that mid-ground, that mid-tree covers them up, doesn't give them the light, and then they actually die off, and then it keeps them from growing, which is why sometimes you only see a lot of alders on like a hillside or something, because they've covered up all that would be old growth trees, and it takes a really long time for them to like find a good spot to grow up and to finally beat those trees. So like the only reason I know that is my dad really likes those straight growing trees. So at our cabin we actually cut all the like the willows and alders away, so they won't cover up the birch trees and the pine trees and all that
Right.
stuff, because like they can't do that crazy bending maneuver that they'd want to do, you know.
Bernd, I often forget that you're an arborist.
Yeah, fun fact.
Tree Crusaders.
Man, that mist must be really, really thick. If because that point of light is like right behind that branch.
Yeah, dude.
And
That
it's
early morning mist.
yeah.
I went out fishing once and I had a mist kind of similar to this. You couldn't see across the whole lake. And so when you got to the middle of the lake on our little canoe with my friend Drew, you couldn't, yeah, that rhymed. We couldn't see either side of the lake. It was super cool. And then we got attacked by bats. That wasn't cool.
Oh, I was
Did
gonna.
you know?
I was gonna ask, is this a picture a representation of you, like
Getting
fishing?
attacked by bats?
Yeah.
No,
Oh.
no.
Because you are
Actually-
a horse, so like.
Yeah, I'm not that pretty though. I wish I was that pretty and purple.
Did you
Sorry,
know
Go on. Yes.
that in the army, my nickname was Thick Mist?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. I wish I had an army. What would my army nickname be?
The horse.
One army nickname. The horse. Or army nicknames usually never directly related to what you are, though. It's always some kind of funny spin on it. So, like, my nickname might be like the Oats.
You didn't ask me how it was spelled, Burn.
Okay. Very, very funny.
All right. Let's
There's
move
the
on to the
line.
next piece.
We've established the line. Let's move on to the next piece.
Oh, hold on. I still got this maximized. Get out of here. Okay, so the next piece is mine, and is another interesting topic of discussion.
Guess who just made the best transition ever? Me.
This
Army
piece is
names.
called. This piece is called "Direct Action" by Dimfan, an artist who we featured before. And yeah, so this piece takes place, like its narrative is set in a warlike My Little Pony universe that Dimfan has created. I believe it is unique to him. It's a universe that he is kind of developing that uses basically themes of World War I or World War II, and then expands them into a My Little Pony-like universe. And I really, really like this universe he's created, and I think this is one of my favorite pieces that he's made in particular. And yeah, like color-wise and like feeling and like the narrative going on is extremely strong and like well put, and it's well illustrated. And obviously, Dimfan's an awesome artist. And there is another factor that made me really, really want to feature this kind of universe of his and this kind of this piece as well. And it is a podcast that Max and I have both listened to, and I've been listening to a lot recently, called Dan Carlin's Hardcore History. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, Max?
Yeah, specifically the one that I got burned on about was called Blueprint for Armageddon, and it covers World War One. Just I don't know, like just a bunch of different history told by not a historian, just a regular guy who's done a lot of research about it. And it explores kind of in detail. These podcasts are like 3 to 4 hours long, and he's done like 8 episodes or 9 episodes of them. So it's really in depth about, you know, if you don't know about World War One, here is what it was like. What was like from a strategic standpoint? What was it like to be a soldier on the ground? What was it like back home? What was it like at every stage of the war? How did things develop? How did things progress? What did they have? What did they use? Like just crazy amounts of detail. It was something that I got really, really interested in. I don't remember who suggested it, but it was someone at work when I worked at EA. And yeah, I had never researched World War One. We researched World War II all the time, but we hadn't researched World War One. And I learned a lot from it, and it was a really, really interesting one. So I don't remember why. I think it was because of the German connection. I got really, really interested in the German part of World War One, and so I talked to Bernd, who is famously German.
Guten Tag.
So I talked to him about it to see whether or not he'd be interested in it. And this is actually the first time I'm hearing that he actually. I told him about this like months and months ago.
Yeah.
So I haven't heard until now that he was actually listening to it, but I'm glad because I found it very interesting.
Yeah, it's been extremely interesting. It's really, really cool. I when you recommended it to me, like a week later, I flew to Alaska, and when I was in Alaska, I listened to like an episode randomly in the middle. It's a 6-part series, and each part is like 4 hours long. It's crazy. Yeah. But I jumped in at like point 4 or 5 when he was kind of talking about the ending of the war, everything kind of like wrapped up. And I was already really cool then, and so more recently, towards like the end of my semester, I'm finally out of school now. Oh, thank Jesus. I've been listening like during like finals week and stuff. I've been listening to part 1, 2, and 3 when I like drive to school.
I like the earlier parts better, so like you're getting good stuff now.
No, it's like it's really awesome stuff. Like the very, very ending in part 4 was sweet. I have no clue what's in part 5 or 6. Christ.
Yeah.
But those 2 parts have been really, really awesome. I'm on part 3 right now, towards the end of it. Or no, am I on part 4? I'm on part 4. I don't remember. But anyway, point being of all of these podcasts and like me listening to them is I listened to the original part, and it was kind of talking like in a part of it was talking about these soldiers and what they went through like during World War One, with like this intense shelling coming down on both sides, and like how it affected them. And like Dan Carlin, the dude doing the podcast, was reading like journals that they had found of these soldiers, and and like firsthand like references and stuff of like, and this material, this stuff that they described and how they described it. It was almost like intangible, like so hard to think about or like believe or like put yourself in their shoe, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it was mind blowing to an extent because, you know, as a sheltered American in the city, like I don't have exposure to any of that type of deal. Like even like movies I've watched, like Saving Private Ryan, don't even do that kind of junk justice.
Yeah.
And I had never studied World War I or World War II. Like in school, they basically were like, you know what? Yeah, World War I, our state requires us to teach you about this stuff. Nazis are bad. We won. Good job. Go home. And it was like, okay, sweet. Nazis are bad. Woo, go play in recess. And like, I never really got that much info about World War I and II. I knew there were tanks. I knew there were guns. I knew people had like shells, and I knew like soldiers died. Lots of people died, but I didn't really understand how many was a lot of people.
Right.
And I didn't understand any of that. So listening to all this podcast was like, bam, it was a crash course in that. So podcast advertisement done. You should really go watch it. It was cool.
If I may, just one more thing. Like, I think it's really, really important because, like Byrne was saying, you kind of get these sense of revelations of like what actually happened. It's so important. I see people all the time talking about like wartime stuff, and it's like, you don't know what you're advocating. Like,
yeah,
you need to listen and fully understand what a war means from every single perspective in great detail. You know, it's not something you can learn about in a grade 10 history class, like we all get like shoved down our throat.
Exactly. And like we're kids, so they shelter certain things from us too.
Absolutely.
Right? Like one of the things I hear all the time, have heard before I listen to the podcast, and still hear now, especially notice now after the podcast, is like how casually we kind of joke about the Germans, right? Even during World War I and World War II, like, oh, just kind of haha, like being the bad guys or whatever. But it's just like when you get their side of the story in such detail, it's like you can't help but side with World War I Germany. And then you get on that thing where it's like, oh, no, I'm not defending Nazi Germany in World War II. Like, you'd never do that type of deal. It's like, yes, they were the villain, but it's just like when you take their historical context, it's like they had it pretty bad too. And so, like, they had something to fight for. And, like, you learn about all that, and it's like, wow, because you never knew that. It was just like, the Nazis were demons, so we killed them. Go America. And it was like, sweet.
And, of course, there's two sides to the story. And the nice thing about that podcast is that he gives not just two sides, but 10, 20 sides.
He's reading things from the English front, from the French front, from the Russian front, from the German front. Like, it's great. All right. Enough of that.
I was going to say, just quickly to wrap it all in together. I was going to wrap it all in together. Was the reason why we're talking about this so much and why I'm not going, we should talk about the art like really heavily, is because when Byrne brought this up to me, we kind of talked about why it was important to bring up, and that was to do with context in art pieces. So the reason why these art pieces stand out so much to Byrne, which he will talk about, I'm sure, in great detail as soon as I'm done, is to do with context. He's learned new information. He's gained context to wartime pieces, and it's made it a big deal. And so you might be sitting there listening to the podcast going, why are they talking so much about this podcast? It's important because of the context of this piece, and that's what we're trying to explore with this art piece.
Exactly. I couldn't have said it better myself. So what happened is I listened to said podcast, and it gave me that sense of context, that sense of feeling. And then I'd known of this artwork in particular, this piece that's been on the screen, Direct Action by Tim Fan, and it had been in my favorites because I thought it was cool, right? It was just cool. It had some pony soldiers that were like deflecting artillery or something, and like there was some cool action going on, but like it didn't really have any other emotional impact on me at all past that, other than like there's some cool lighting and like art wise. But then like when I listened to that podcast and got that context, I had happened upon Dim Fan's War Universe a second time, and then it really kind of struck me as like, wow, what I had just experienced in learning about history through that podcast affected me and affected how I look at this art piece in particular. And I noticed how much care and detail that Dim Fan as an artist is putting into these pieces, and putting into the characters, and like really driving home these like feelings of extreme impact that the knowledge learning history like had for me, but then obviously translating it into like this My Little Pony artwork. And I thought it was awesome. Like it's really hard for me to explain, but it was great. It made this piece like 1,000 times better for me, and it made my respect for Dim Fan as an artist been like wow, like he also has this awesome connection through war, or not through war, but through like history, right?
Right.
And through kind of like and through this like just depiction of history. And in these pieces, which are all different and all have different scenarios and scenes, some are graphic warning, but they're all like incredibly painted. And anywho, I thought this was a really good example, one, because it's cool if you also don't have that context, but I would encourage you to go to his gallery, and like there's one that really hits me as well, of a shell-shocked pony, like before they even knew what PTSD is. It's just a painting of a pony, but like with complete blank expression, blank color, and it just hits you of like what shell shock. Well, anyways, so about this piece, why this piece is so cool, like. So what's going on here is a shell is coming down, a major shell of like an artillery shell, and it's coming down on this little squadron of ponies here. And it is being attempted to being deflected by a unicorn. And then there is a soldier on the left running in, attempting to help the unicorn with the deflection. And in the description, it says unassisted direct deflection is not advised for projectiles exceeding 40 millimeters. And like, I read that the second time I came back to this. So that already is incredibly cool. So like, it's for as like a universe standpoint, right? So like you have these ponies kind of thrown into like a World War I-esque universe, and then this pony's trying to essentially save this squadron of 4 helpless Earth ponies from this huge artillery shell.
For the record, it's much bigger than 40.
Yeah, that is a ridiculously sized like shell. Like 44 millimeters, like what? I honestly can't really explain, but
to put it in a grim way, this picture depicts 5 ponies before they die, in a very grim way. So, it's. I think it's a really cool piece, and I really enjoyed the way that you brought it up, Burned, with the context, because I think if we analyze this piece just giving it 10 minutes of time and going, oh, look at the scenario, it's cool and it's interesting and it's deep, that really doesn't do justice to the series that Dim Fan is doing and the amount of work and history behind it as well.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say before we wrap up this piece, because we're kind of running low on time, that the little details in it are really, really cool. Like I love the helmets and how like there's like horn holes in the helmets. And I also love the fact that he included like a communication officer with like the backpack with the phone and stuff. And
radio was a new invention in World War I. Fun fact. So
yeah, the details are great.
The old school packs, and like the pony on like the right is trying to save like the pony underneath him, like jumping on top of him, things like that. And then like the color too, like not only is this like a cool narrative going on, but like how the scene is colored and like laid out like incredibly helps the type of like emotion that he's trying to push forward, right? So a very like dimly lit night, and then the only thing that's extremely brightly colored in contrast to everything else is these explosions, and is the magic like trying to essentially deflect or the shell and like save everyone is the attempt, right? And so like it's almost a futile attempt, depending on like how big that shell is, right? And so you can see that in the pony's face, like underneath, like looking up in awe at the unicorn, trying to save everyone, and also the dude trying to help. But it, like, look how big the explosions are in the background in comparison to those ponies next to them. Like it's a mind-bogglingly big shell. And like the really choppy brushes up above and like kind of the sky, and like how the shell is parting the light from the magic too. Like that also really helps drive forward this fact of like this shell like coming into Pierce, and it's like the moment in which it hits. Just artistically, this is fan-freaking-tastic. Like, I love it. It's great. It's great.
Couple of plugs before we move on to the next piece. talked about a podcast that is again Dan Carlin's Hardcore History Blueprint for Armageddon, was it?
Yeah. So the Dan Carlin's Blueprint for Armageddon series. Another good one is Dan Carlin's Ostfront. Is a good intro series. It's much shorter and gives you a good shorthand talk if you want to listen to.
And Dimfan's stuff is it's called War Universe, and he's got a gallery of it. Again, some of it is a little bit more graphic. Nothing too horrible, but there's a couple of things. It's war, and war sucks. So, if you want to learn more about it, then there's a couple of resources for you.
Yep.
Anyways, let's get off this depressing topic and move on to horrible sky ponies.
This stuff got me through my finals week, man. It's good stuff.
What, horrible sky ponies? They are very motivating.
They
are very
Forget
motivating.
horrible sky ponies.
The next piece is called The Battle of Self by Virastaper. And it is a piece depicting Luna in the pony equivalent to the Grand Canyon, it looks like. Whatever that's called. I don't remember what it's called. The Ghastly Gorge.
Oh, yeah.
The Ghastly Gorge. And it's got a big Tantibus head looming over her.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Now, Ted didn't get to say anything last time, so I'm going to give the floor to him first because he really, really liked this piece.
Okay.
Lean back in my chair.
Well, I think the first thing that I noticed, which probably not a lot of people will notice firsthand, is I love the way that Virastaper did the wings. They have a lot of volume to them. Each feather looks feather-like, even though it's not completely detailed. I love the coloring on them. I love how the tips are a lot lighter than the kind of where her shoulder meets the wing, and
That is cool.
the anatomy is really, really good. I like it.
I agree. I really like that. It's a unique take on wing feathers.
Her I was gonna say her neck seems thick, but I think it's just the hair playing a hair illusion on me.
Yeah. I think it's the hair is kind of blending into the neck, so yeah.
That's definitely it, because you can see where the main parts down the neck, which is actually very nicely done, and then so it's just the mane coming off the side of her neck.
Yeah. I don't know. I like the scene overall in general. The sky is very painterly. It reminds me a lot of impressionistic pieces by Monet, because it's just dabs of color. And then you got the big looming sky pony, which is I guess spooky in a way. I don't know.
It feels more. It doesn't feel sinister. Is it? Do we know for a fact that it's the Tantibus? Is that because this is Battle of the Self, so that
Well,
would
that's
be battling
that's
Tantibus, right?
That's exactly what the Tantibus manifested itself in as, with the glowing eyes and the purple.
You're right.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting because it almost feels like a more Lion King-esque thing, right? Just Simba. Yeah, right.
Luna.
There's this large deity-like figure to Luna specifically, kind of manifesting itself in the sky, but it doesn't feel daunting, you know. It doesn't feel threatening because the other narrative aspects in the scene going on is how vast it is, up in the gorge, but it's kind of it's sunny, it's light out, the weather's nice.
Yeah.
It's kind of epic.
It's very serene, peaceful and calm. And I mean that kind of paired with the Tantibus, they don't really go hand in hand. So it's an interesting kind of concept.
Because it's a juxtaposition, it feels right? Because the Tantibus as we know it is this deep, nightmarish, nighttime creature. Nightmare is a very good descriptive term, because the entire place the entire episode took place in Luna's nightmare, right? And it was it was nighttime, it was spooky, it was this evil creature, it hissed, it was did these things, and then now you have Luna in a tangible real world setting, with a giant manifested bust of this figure, and but all of those juxtaposing narratives aside, I do like this scene. And I would agree with you that I like how Luna is illustrated. But I feel like the view in which we have on Luna in the gorge feels slightly conflicting to me. I feel like the angle she's at almost doesn't match like the angle in which I want to put the gorge at. But
well, what I was going to say about this piece was there's an interesting sense of motion because, her body to me, with the hair and the tail, gives off a sense of a stoic, very simple, standing still, not a lot of motion. But her wings tell a different story, right? The wings to me seem a lot more like they're in motion. She's swooping down. There's a lot of emotion associated with it. And so there's a certain, I can't tell, it looks like she might be flying, but I don't get the sense from her body, her hair, or anything else like that she is, besides the wings, and the fact that she's hovering, I guess. So I thought it was very interesting because it was very conflicting in that sense. Is she moving? Is she not? It's hard to tell.
This entire piece is like full of juxtapositions, actually. Like if you kind of think of it, the from where we are in this view, like the way that view has done this, is you kind of feel like closed in because you're in this gorge. You're like, Luna's right up close to you. Like it's very closed in, but then like it's a very open piece, like at the top, like where the Tanibus is. So it's like there's that juxtaposition, this juxtaposition of the Tanibus versus like the really serene environment, like her pose being like standstill versus like in motion. It's interesting.
It's almost like she's struck a pose mid-flight,
Because that's what Luna does every time.
Naturally.
Yeah.
Because her wings have this very grand like upswing, and but yet her body is like at an angle yet still, and her hair is still as well. But another thing on her hair is it's doing that kind of really cool braided theme that in the last piece that we featured by Vesper, where her tail's kind of like going a bunch of interesting different directions. It's not kind of like ghastly like you would see it, or ghostly. Ethereal, I guess, is a better word. Where you normally see kind of the alicorn's hair is like actually kind of more hair-like. And I do like that take on the pony's hair that View's been doing recently. So.
Yeah.
And something else that I wanted to point out, it's a very, very small detail, but I really enjoy the little teeny tiny brushstrokes that indicate the trees up, especially on the top left hand, or just on the left hand side, on the top of the gorge. You've got these kind of clumps of different colors of green, which is supposed to be trees, but he's taken the extra step there and done a little like swipes that kind of show off the coniferous trees up there. And,
are they happy little trees?
Yeah, that's my man.
Yeah. So I just like that little level of detail. He could have left it as like lumps of green and that would have been fine, but there's just little tiny detail that like gives you just a little bit more.
Even in the bushes, like the up close, like the bushes do that as well, to
right.
give like foliage. So
I really
foliage. Foliage.
Nope, foliage.
Okay.
Like tin foil.
I see. He stuck tin foil in the bushes. Makes sense.
Nice. Speaking of, I like the kind of the cyan color that's like underneath that bush. It could be tinfoil reflecting. You never know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a nice color.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
8 out of 10. 8 out of 10.
It's similar to the first piece we featured, right? Kind of bringing in that bit of blue.
Yeah.
Bit of blue. Yeah. Yeah. It's good. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's very nice.
It's well painted.
And it was painted in one day because Virastoper is doing a 1 per day art piece kind of thing in December. So,
wow.
Great
Nice
job.
one, champ.
I know I'll be buying a lot of prints from him at this upcoming convention season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Print it up.
The upcoming BorkyCon.
It was Luna piece he did December 3rd. So pretty.
The upcoming Virastoper convention.
Right.
Virasticon.
Virasticon.
Yeah.
By the way, in the tags, it's tagged Tanibus. So just to clear up that. Tis the Tantibus, so says the artist.
Yes.
All right. Well, that is our art for this week, guys. So now we're going to move on to the questions, which I will do.
Okay.
maybe one day when the hammering stops. Hey, anyways, so the first question on the theme of sad things comes in from Johann's robot, and it's kind of a long question, so I'm going to paraphrase a bit.
Johann, my man.
But basically, what he asks is, as a fan, sometimes he'll notice that artists or some of his friends will go through kind of some public stuff. They'll go through some hard times, they'll go through depression or anything like that. And what he's saying is, I don't really know what to do. I don't know how to reach out to people who I don't personally know, as artists that I just watch. I don't know how to reach out to them and help. What can you do? Can you help? He added a TLDR, which I'll ask now, which is, what should fans do when confronted with a depressed or distraught artist? So we're right back down in the war.
Yeah.
War and depression.
This
so
is a difficult subject.
I'm gonna start with this one. The topic of dealing with people with depression or distress or anything like that is a very difficult topic to talk about, no matter who you are and what you are relative to the person who's going through it. You made it a bit easier by saying, as a fan, what should we do? And the answer is there's not really much you can do as a fan. People are going through depression. It's a very difficult time, and it's very difficult to deal with, and it's something that family members and close friends might not even be able to help them out with that much. So from a fan perspective, it can be difficult to hear that an artist is going through that. But if you want a realistic perspective, there's really not much you can do if you don't know the person that well. You can send a nice message and you can leave a comment, but at the end of the day, sometimes we just can't help these things. I know many artists that I've followed or watched that go through hard times, and as much as it sounds a bit heartless to say, sometimes you just need to not let that worry you, because if it's out of your control, it's out of your control. We could go into more detail about, if you knew the person closer, if it was a family member or a friend, but that's a whole different can of worms. So, yeah, that's my perspective on it. Unfortunately, there's not much you can do as just a fan, other than, maybe leave a nice message, but sorry, dude. It's something that they've got to figure out with their family, their friends, and honestly, themselves, most of all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, obviously, like, if you know the artist better, like, or even if you don't, just like being there to support them, maybe leaving a nice comment on their page, like, complimenting their art and stuff. Like, it might not really help with, like, serious depression and stuff, but like, at least it's you're reaching out to them, and maybe if they're a little bit closer, than just being there to listen to them, or yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a tough topic, and it's hard to know what to do. And like I said, it's hard to know what to do, even if you are that close family member or friend who can perhaps make a difference. But if you're from an outside perspective like that, then sorry, man, not much you can do about it. It's something that people have to deal with within their own kind of close circles and with themselves. It's tough, but sometimes that stuff's just gotta work itself out. We can't always we can't always fix these kind of things from an outside perspective if you're just a fan.
I'd like to be an opposing voice if I could.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, you can leave a nice comment, or you can say something, or you can make it apparent that you care or something like that, or you wish the best for them. But you'd be surprised how much of an impact like one little person can have on like another, especially like an artist or just someone posting on like social media that they're going through a hard time, right? And like it's unreasonable to like expect like you as just a fan on looking at this in particular person through social media to like go all the way out of your way to try to help them, or like do all these things to like because you're putting so much effort as like you like as a person to try to like extend yourself out to this individual. And like I know, like, the person asking this question too, like Johan, like he's one of the best examples of a human being. Like I can really think of, especially someone who wants to like help other people. And so like it sucks to say like there's not much you can do for someone, but I think Johan in particular, and I think just anyone would be really surprised by the impact they can have by just saying just saying to like the person posting this or leaving a message and saying like I care about you, like I wish you the best, or just anything along those lines. And I think the best thing you can do is make it known to that person that you as an individual who exists care and like wish for them. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And like for some people who I know who have gone through hard times and like they've posted things on social media or whatever, like I've done, and when I really do care, I've done my best to like send them a personal message on Skype or on DeviantArt or whatever, like personally, and say like, hey, like the least I can do as an individual halfway across the earth is talk to you and take time out of my day to speak to you verbally, through like a VoIP platform or just even through written message. And like sometimes people just need that, but other than that, like that's sometimes that's the most you can do.
I mean, it also depends on like what the situation is. Like if it's just that the artist is not feeling like that their art is that good, or like if it's just kind of going through a tough time, like a lot of the times that's really all they need is to hear like compliments or like that people actually do care about them. But if it is a bit more serious, like if it is like clinical depression or whatever, that's a little bit tougher to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah.
So, it's a very difficult thing for, it's obviously a difficult thing for people to go through, but also from an outside perspective, it can be very difficult, as a fan. But you can just do what you can in the small ways, right? As Bern mentioned, and it's kind of, I suppose when you have a bunch of small gestures like that, it can add up to something bigger. But as an individual, I just feel like it's hard when you don't know the person to step in and try and fix things, because just from a realistic standpoint, you're not. You can help, right? And you can contribute. But I wouldn't walk into a situation where you don't know someone and try and fix things because chances are that's going to take longer and it's going to require.
It's not your responsibility, right?
Yeah.
Like, you shouldn't be required. You shouldn't have to feel like it is my duty as a human being in order to help this person. Like, you as a good person, like you can want to help them and want to do things, but sometimes it is like outside of your power. And then like that thing that you can do is, like we said, like the small things, like again, make it apparent, like leave that comment, like voice yourself. But in the end, sometimes that's the best as humans that we can offer, especially on like a digital world. So.
Well, and like also I guess it depends on kind of what the artist thinks of you too. Like I know Johan's is like I look up to him, and I know a lot of other people do too, like as a person and as an artist. And it's like I guess if someone's down because their art, they don't feel like their art is that good or whatever, if like someone that they look up to comments on it and says, oh hey, I really appreciate your art, it's really good, whatever, like that may have an impact on the person. But it all depends on the situation, really.
But there's a small business question, like I feel like it would be inappropriate to reach out as a lurker or sometimes a commenter.
I disagree with that, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I agree with you, Bernd.
That's what I was just gonna say. Is like I don't think it's ever inappropriate to try to reach out as a human being and say like, hey, like I care about other people. So
I think it would be inappropriate to reach out and do that thing we talked about before, which is trying to fix it.
Yeah.
But not knowing the person, right? But honestly, that's kind of inappropriate whether or not you know the person or not. A lot of the times with these things, especially if it's serious, it's less of a trying to fix things and more of a you just need to listen, right?
There's a difference in between trying to be a remedy and then trying to offer the support and that you can. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
So I don't think we have time for the next question. And sorry.
Oh boy, but it's so depressing.
I know.
Can we pick like a silly question or something to do? Nobody sent us in silly questions, have they?
No.
Well, that sucks. If you started a pranking war between each other, what would your first strike be, and on who? Sent in by South Williams.
I
I don't know what I'd do, but I definitely prank Burned. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I throw shade at him all the time.
Hey, screw you,
way
buddy.
it's way too easy. I would,
You already kicked me when I was down once this podcast.
I like the classics, so I would whoopee cushion Burned.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
He's always burned.
That's
Yeah?
a good question. All right, Burn. Well, who would you prank first?
Oh, always you.
Oh, I mean,
Ted's
Come
too
on.
nice to prank.
Aw.
that's the right.
And like my pranks on Ted have been just like I moved your teacup to the other table.
Well, also, we couldn't do it to Joel because Joel would just find it funny.
Yeah.
And like you'd lose all the impact. Like,
feel like he
part
would
of the
find-
prank is the reaction, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like he would either find it funny or like come back with like the Wrath of 1,000 Suns.
Right. Like he'd be really good at it too. So like the thing about you and I, Burned, is that we're not very good at pranking, so we wouldn't be able to do great retribution. And the second thing is that we are a bit we do give the good reactions. So we're the perfect pranking targets, as much as I hate to say that.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a salty dog too when it comes to
I would probably
being the butt end of a joke.
I would probably I'd mess with your facial hair, I think.
Oh,
How dare you.
That's
Like in your sleep.
rough.
I would end you.
I'd make like a silly you can
I would-
grow it back,
I
you
would
big
end
baby.
your small blonde life.
You baby.
I would like see if you touch someone's hair, like you can't cut it though. You'd have to like.
They were
grate-
like when I had really
What do you mean?
like
His beard, not his hair.
Yeah.
yeah,
His
it's
beard
'cause,
is
like
part of
with
his
with
hair.
with hair, like with hair when I had long hair, like my friends all knew not to screw with my hair. But like when it comes to like facial hair and stuff, like yeah, I can grow it back, but it's also like
Fine, then I
it's
dye
like-
it.
it's a physical part of my body. Like
I dye
Yeah.
it. It'd be like a dark pink.
I could see that.
what?
Actually, I could see you rocking that too, Burned.
No.
Bam. I dye your hair in your sleep.
What's
There
wrong
you go.
with all of you?
I'm sorry. This is a prank. I'm not supposed to ask for your permission.
Never letting you in my home
Oh.
would be the absolute definition of not okay with said
There you
prank.
go. I'd do something with his hair. I'd dye it. There you go. It's a little bit
dare
less
you. You
egregious than
Neanderthal.
cutting it off. It wouldn't be permanent dye.
It would take
wash out in, like, a
longer
day.
to like
Ooh.
like temporary dye. You're gonna
Yeah, I'm
paint
not
my
gonna
face.
What
dye
I
it
would
for like
do.
6 months long.
I know what
So
I
I
would
thought
do,
you were saying.
and it wouldn't involve messing with your hair. I would tilt all of your pony artwork off slightly.
You
Very
psychopath.
slightly. Very slightly. These reactions are exactly why
So,
we prank you, Burn.
What's actually really funny, that tilting slightly, is when I was in high school, I used to have this thing that I loved doing, and that I would go into my friends' homes or rooms and then turn random objects of theirs upside down. And the better like prank or the better object was the object where it was really like hard for them to notice, or it was like funnily obvious. Like
an entire face.
like their digital clock or something, or like their clock on the wall. Like you just flip it over, like a tissue box, or just like random things, or like in their bathroom, you just flip them upside down. So like they're living their life, they're being normal, the room kind of looks normal, and when they go over and they see something, they're like, why the hell is that upside down? And they gotta like flip it over. And then this eventually reached a climax of when I stopped doing this, where I went into my friend's father's room, and in his father's room, him and his son, my friend RJ, we flipped every single object that we could in his entire room.
Oh no.
And like, I don't know if you understand how frustrating that would be, but needless to say, his dad was really, really mad. But eventually he came
And I never
around and was
flipped the
like,
thing again.
yeah, that was kind of funny. But it's hard to, eventually he was like, yeah, it was funny, but it's hard to explain like how much stuff we flipped backwards. Like his bed, we rotated his bed all the way around. His sheets, we flipped over in his blankets.
Oh my goodness.
And then like his speakers, like we flipped his speakers, like his music speakers, his desk drawers, like drawers that we put like his jewelry and stuff in. His like digital clock on his bedstand. In his bathroom, we like flipped all of his shampoo bottles upside down and stuff. And then we went into his walk-in closet, took all of his clothes and flipped the coat hangers backwards.
Oh no.
And like all of his shoes were upside down, like every little object. And so when he went into his room, it was like a fun house. Like it was like, oh my God, what happened in here? And he was super pissed at me and he was super pissed at RJ. But then eventually, like a month later, he's like, man, I've been using my closet for a month and I finally know what clothes I don't wear. And I was like, oh, it was like the funniest thing, because all the clothes he actually wore were flipped back normal, because he just wasn't going to go through the effort to flip all that stuff back.
Yeah.
But yeah, good stuff.
Nice.
Did I ever tell you guys about the prank that I pulled on my boss when I worked at EA?
Yeah, with the pictures?
Where I printed out a bunch of pictures and put them up all over the office.
Yeah, that was good.
We should save that for next time if you haven't told it to the
we've
podcast.
told it. We definitely told it.
I think we have. I think we have.
We told it in an intro once.
Yeah.
You reminded me, Bern, because I was thinking back to that office, and what I used to do is, to the person next to me, I used to flip his mouse over. Just randomly. Like sometimes we'd be in the middle of a conversation, I'd just lean over and I'd take his mouse and I'd just flip it over. It's like the most useless thing ever, but like it was so useless that he would burst out laughing. So like, or like when he like annoy me, like we'd be like, hey Cam, like come out to lunch, and he'd be like, no sorry, I have my lunch. I'd go like, and I'd like walk over and I'd flip his mouse over. Just like a little like microaggression there.
I used to be really good at pranking stuff like that. It used to be really fun. Something with my friends and I
used to be fun.
Yeah. Like that flipping upside down thing, it used to be a theme. So what my friends and I used to do is we used to screenshot each other's desktops and then flip them in like Paint. Yeah. And then delete everything like off of the desktop, whatever. And then so like their desktop looks normal but flipped upside down. Yeah, and so like everything looks normal, but then you're like whatever. Or you screenshot the desktop, so like there's the files there, but then you put all the files in one folder, like over on the desktop or something called like LOL, and then so they can't click any of that stuff. Or you put like tape on the mouse. We just do that sometimes.
Yeah. All right, we got to wrap up because we are running up on time. Send us in your prank stories, I guess, if you want to.
Ted, so eager.
Okay,
do the plugs.
I will do the plugs. We have a YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Cutie Art Crusaders, picardo.tv/Cutie Art Crusaders. We have cutieartcrusaders.deviantart.com. We have cutieartcrusaders.tumblr.com, facebook.com/Cutie Art Crusaders, at Cutie Art Crusade on Twitter, and our email where you can send in more questions, which you should do because we're running low, is cutieartcrusaders@gmail.com.
Cool. All right. So next week is Christmas. Again, not sure if we can do an episode then. We're going to try our hardest to be able to do that. So hope you guys look forward to that. If not, then the week after that is going to be a New Year's podcast. It's the first one in 2016. Again, we're doing a little thing with fan art, so if you want to send in some fan art for an episode that we'll be doing in January centered around you lovely fans, then please send it in to cutieartcrusaders@gmail.com. Before the new year, basically anytime in 2015, you can send that in, and make sure you start sending those in so that we can feature them. Use your Christmas break to make some awesome art, and we'd love to feature you on the show. And that is everything for this week, guys. We've gone a bit long, but it was necessary because it was so depressing. So we needed to lift the mood a bit. So hopefully this extra 10 minutes has lifted your mood. It certainly lifted mine. And yeah, that's everything for this week. Thank you guys for watching and listening, whether or not you're on the live stream or on YouTube. We love you all the same. My name is Rainbow Plasma.
My name is Burndo1.
I'm PhotoGuy317.
And we'll see you guys next week for a special holiday episode.
I'm gonna turn a flame!
Tell me how